For me, it's the natural order of things. He who receives has to give. I've been given so much in my life. I've been afforded so many opportunities in my life. The least I can do is to give back to the community. But never would I have been able to grow elsewhere in the world, because here I feel extremely, extremely supported by government, by infrastructures that are in place to enable me to live my dreams and live my dreams at home. That's the best. Well, the first challenge in entrepreneurship is like fighting the imposter syndrome. Before you leap into becoming an entrepreneur, it's important to work for somebody else. It's important to understand what it takes to be led, right? You have to be led before you can lead. But the biggest hurdle is yourself, is fear. I wanted to be a chef, and I wanted to have a restaurant. I wanted to go into hospitality. I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. But, you know, my mother specifically wouldn't have it that way. Just being African, that is the joy of being African. And any African in the world can relate to the fact that, you know, when you enter an African's home, he will not let you leave without eating.
Rwanda has witnessed remarkable development in various sectors recently. The government has empowered countless individuals, and in turn, these individuals have inspired and empowered others. One such individual is Nicole Ansoni, and she's our guest today on The Perspective. Nicole, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for sparing time to talk to us as well.
No, thank you.
It's an honor, and we are privileged to have you.
The pleasure is equally shared.
Yeah. So first things first, who is Nicole Ansoni?
Nicole is a young Rwandan entrepreneur who's been blessed for the last 11 years to be able to create socioeconomic impacts in Rwanda and now in West Africa by living, you know, through her passions. And that has led to my entrepreneurial journey.
I understand that you encourage and you have inspired so many people to develop but following their passions. I would like to hear more about that story.
Well, it's always really kind to hear. I think everything that I've done was never with, I think, the goal to necessarily inspire anyone. I was really on my own journey of fulfillment, of trying to create businesses out of the things that I loved and being able to sustain a career from that. But really, what I believe in is mentorship, because I'm the product of mentorship. My educational background has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. I studied political science and international relations. I was set to have a career in diplomacy, and that is where I started and completely pivoted. And luckily, I was young enough to be able to make that choice to completely pivot into becoming self-employed entrepreneur. But that took a lot of mentorship. So, you know, my cousins, my brothers rallying around me, who themselves are entrepreneurs, believing in me, telling me that it was a possibility, allowing me to come back to Rwanda and study the market and see, you know, really what was the value add that I was going to contribute to the business sector overall, but also individually into the different sectors that I wanted to go into, and particularly hospitality. So I think the impact that I've been able to make is truly coming from that, from being nurtured by mentors and feeling like I also wanted to be able to mentor young women, especially who were curious about the field of hospitality, wanting to get into it and feeling like it was so insurmountable because they didn't have many, I guess, role models or stories of possibilities in their environment that they could do it, or they didn't know the know-how of what was the first step to becoming an entrepreneur and being able to live from your passion. So, um, if I inspire, it's great, but it's really what's most important to me is being able to not just inspire, but create social impact with what we're doing. So if I'm able to better the community in which I am working in and where my businesses are, then I know that beyond doing what I love, something amazing is happening um, organically around the work that we do.
Mm. How the diversion from what you studied in school to what you actually practice today,
Yeah.
for me, seems to be like a very big turning point in your career.
Yeah.
How has this shaped the person you are today?
What's made me adaptable? It's made me adaptable. I think education is the greatest gift, honestly. It is not afforded to everybody, unfortunately, and that is where there's a disequilibrium in the world where I believe education is a human right. I was fortunate, very fortunate enough that my parents were able to really put me in the best schools and afford me the best type of education. And so, very young, I knew that I wanted to be a chef and I wanted to have a restaurant. I wanted to go into hospitality. I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. But my mother specifically wouldn't have it that way because for her, she really wanted me to have stability. And so she thought, going into the regular workforce and working in diplomacy was going to give me job security. And that's what every parent wants. They want their child to be stable. So my pivoting was really just like I said, mentors around me saying, well, look, you're young. What's the worst that could happen? You're smart. You have an education. If this idea of yours doesn't work out and you have a little bit of capital now because you've been working for 2 years. So you can use that capital and start something. And the worst that happens is it fails and you go back to working for somebody else. But that's what education can afford, right? So had I think gone straight into entrepreneurship, one, I really don't think that I would have been as successful because I think before you leap into becoming an entrepreneur, it's important to work for somebody else. It's important to understand what it takes to be led, right? You have to be led before you can lead. So you have to understand what it takes, what it takes to work for somebody else. So um, my pivoting was the just support, and people supported my dream and my self belief, and then I just took the leap.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. I can imagine you faced some challenges on this way, uh, especially in pursuing this other career in culinary arts. What are some of them and how did you overcome them?
Well, the first challenge in entrepreneurship is like fighting the imposter syndrome, right? So you have an idea. You know in your head that you've gone through this idea over and over, right? You've calculated the risk, you've done your business proposal, you've either found some kind of small capital to invest in your business or you found somebody else who believes in your idea to invest in it. But the biggest hurdle is yourself, is fear. Fear is the biggest thing. It will torment you. You will go back and forth. Can I do it? I can't do it. Who do I think I am to do it? The imposter syndrome is a real thing in the business, and people don't talk about it. And it helps when you have people who remind you that you have the skill. Because I think it's important to build your business around the skill that you have and an understanding of the business that you're going into. So for me, that was the first challenge. So fighting myself, right, and my own insecurities, my own fears, and that imposter syndrome. That was number one. Number two, depending on the business that you're trying to get into, is just the infrastructure, right? So getting into hospitality in Rwanda, when I started, there wasn't really a lot of infrastructure for restaurants around the supply chain, which is a big, big, big hurdle. So how do I get the best products for my clients? I know I want to achieve this. But so, you in the beginning, we used to have 20, 30 odd suppliers because one supplier has one item and then the other one has that item. And so you're running around like a chicken, trying to fulfill, all that you need for your business to work. So that was a big, big issue, supply chain. Third biggest challenge was human resource. Hospitality is still nascent. Tourism is still a nascent industry in Rwanda. We've gone leaps and bounds from when I started, 10 years ago. But um, when I started, it was very hard. So you would find some students who graduated from, tourism schools, hospitality schools, but they knew only theory. So they were really of no help on the ground dealing with a customer, dealing uh, with how to run a kitchen because they had no hands-on experience. So, and then the alternative was, you know, young people working in hospitality that had been working in other restaurants, working in other hotels, that end up coming to work for you. But now you have the job of sort of, it's easier to start with a blank slate, I say, but it's very hard to undo bad habits. So you can teach new habits. It's very hard when you're doing training in human resource to undo bad habits that have been learned over time. So for me, that was another big challenge was finding the right candidates. Really, I believe in hiring for attitude more than skill because skill you can learn. Attitude is very, very complicated to undo and to change. So finding the right people to work with. So I would say those were the three major challenges. And of course, capital. The more you want to do, the more money you need. And when you're young, access to capital can be quite challenging. But luckily, like I said, I had been working prior, so I had a little bit of working capital to be able to get me started, and then the first business finance the second business, and then so on and so on and so forth.
Nicole, as a successful chef and entrepreneur that you are, for me, you have surely set a very strong foundation in the hospitality industry. How do you help other people to follow suit? Or how have you empowered others through your work and leadership?
Well, thank you for your kind words. I think we're always a work in progress, and I always want to strive for better and do better. And through the years and with experience and getting the opportunity to network and meet incredible people who along the way have also served now as mentors as I go into a different sort of segment of my entrepreneurial journey. But to answer your question, what we have done is mentor. So training, really believe in training. It's been amazing to see. I mean, we have high, really, retention in terms of our turnover for employees. That's because we've been able to build a sense of community. And through that community, we've also had some people that have come here, worked for us, and then gone on to incredible opportunities. So it's really training, mentoring. We do internships with a lot of, young individuals who are one in hospitality schools, others who are not, but just really want to learn the craft. That is, whether it's waitressing, bartending, cooking, um, management of a hospitality business. So that is one of the ways in which we help. I also do a lot of talks in schools, hands-on training with some young individuals, especially like hands-on culinary arts training. But beyond that, a labor project that has been really near and dear to my heart is my foundation, the Ansoni Foundation. In the beginning, when we started the foundation about 7 years ago, um, I just wanted to go and see the neighboring schools and say, okay, well, do you need books? How do we help? How do we give back? Because I really believe in education. And they said, well, the books are nice, but the issue we have is that the kids don't come to school because they don't eat. I said, what do you mean they don't eat? I said, well, the government can only do so much. So the government has ensured that each kid has the opportunity to go to school as school is subsidized and is free. However, the families still have to contribute to the school lunch. So a lot of these kids, brilliant kids, are not afforded that opportunity now because the family just can't support the lunch. Or so what would happen is the kids would go half day, return, not do the full day, or drop out altogether, or just come in the afternoon. Um, and so for me, that hit hard because that is what I do for a living. I feed people for a living. That is how I get absolute joy. And I said, well, just because of a lunch, these kids are not going to school. Like, I need to be part of the solution. I need to bridge that gap between government and these kids being able to have access to education. So with our foundation, that is what we do. We take the profits, some profits of the multiple businesses that we have, mainly all the hospitality businesses that I have, and we will support schools, especially schools where the kids are really thriving, and we see that it's merit-based. The principals are trying. Just last week, we were in Huye, and we donated over 200,000 meals just until the rest of the year. Next year, we're pledging again to that same school. That school is in a very rural area in Huye, in Gruhashia to be specific, Gatovu. They have ranked number one 2 years in a row out of 47 schools in Huye, in the southern district, with no electricity, barely, any kind of infrastructure that they need. But it just shows the determination of the faculty of the school, the management of the school, the local authorities that are supporting that school. And so we felt as a foundation that we really wanted to be a part of that story, be a part of their journey to success, in making sure that every child in that school has a school lunch and has one hot meal a day. So when you talk about impact, for me, those are things that matter the most to me. It's, yes, there's the training and creating the next generation of people who are going to serve in hospitality, but what we do has to have social impact. So how do we really make a big contribution to ensure that young kids stay in school and are empowered to the freedoms that I was afforded because of my education?
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
This is now a journey in philanthropy, if I yeah, get it right. I'm curious, how do you manage to balance giving back to the community and your entrepreneurship ambitions?
Well, it's just for me, it's the natural order of things. Like, he who receives has to give. I've been given so much in my life. I've been afforded so many opportunities in my life. The least I can do is to give back to the community. And especially in Rwanda, a community that has embraced me from moving back to Rwanda. As you said, in your introduction, us entrepreneurs here we're blessed to work in Rwanda because the government empowers us. Somebody asked me a few weeks back, do you think you would have had as much success had you started your entrepreneurial journey anywhere else in the world? And I said, definitely not. Maybe I would have had one, maybe two businesses, but never would I have been able to grow elsewhere in the world, because here I feel extremely, extremely supported by government, by infrastructures that are in place to enable me to live my dreams, um, and live my dreams at home. That's the best.
Nice. Nicole, I want us to talk about Inga Steakhouse.
Yes, my baby.
Yes. There's a lot of creativity around, I can see, but what role does this creativity and design play in both your restaurant business and your broader entrepreneur endeavors?
Well, let me tell you quickly about the story about Ingham. So when I decided that I was going to have a restaurant, I said, well, I'm not Italian. I'm not going to have an Italian restaurant. I'm not French. I don't see really the utility in having a French restaurant. I wanted something that was authentic, right? So, and I also didn't necessarily want to do a Rwandan restaurant because uh, we don't have an elaborate cuisine. Let's put it that way. Um, and I noticed that a lot of people consumed a lot of meat. People love meat. What's not to love? But there was no nice place where you could go and have meat. And believe me, I love a cabaret like just like any other person, right? But when you're trying to make a business deal, when you're trying to propose to your girlfriend, when you're trying to celebrate an anniversary, when you're trying to celebrate your mom's birthday, memorable events that happen in your life that you want to show somebody that you appreciate and you love them at a level of excellence, there was no such place. And for me, I believe meat is, and no offense to my vegan friends that I love, but for me, meat is the highest form of love that you can give to somebody. If you give a nice piece of meat to somebody, and I mean, that is the highest form of love, in my opinion. And that was really the idea in creating Inha. But I wanted people to come here and to know that what they're eating is locally farmed. This is Rwandan beef. That's why we called it Inha. And the internet went crazy. How dare she? She doesn't know the culture. So disrespectful. We drink the milk. We don't eat the cow. How can she do this? But really, it was Inga for me is a love story. It's my love letter to Rwanda, right? Because what does Inga mean? Inga represents everything. It's our dignity. It's who we are as a people. It's our nobility. And at the same time, I wanted this to be a brand. And I wanted people to know that they're eating Rwandan beef. So as we're now targeting to open in Côte d'Ivoire, Inga Steakhouse in Abidjan, it will still be Inga Steakhouse Abidjan. People will know that they're eating Rwandan beef, and this is a Rwandan establishment. So that was very important because I believe that we have quality farmers here in Rwanda, quality meat in Rwanda that was not exploited when I first started, and now you've seen the face of cattle farming has completely changed in Rwanda, and I'm happy that I've been part of that movement. So that creativity you talk about, for me, it's just going back to the farmer. Let's go back to the product. I want people to celebrate Rwandan excellence and it be reflected in the plate. So really, we started actually, our cattle farm started farming 3 years ago. We also work with 3 incredible farmers who farm for us and 2 amazing butchers who butcher for us. But we started farming also to become self-sustainable and really be part of the conversation in a real way. So that's the story of my baby Inga.
From the look of things, I think I'm about to experience some love.
Yes. That's what we want to share with everybody who
I'll
comes.
definitely feel love before I leave this place.
Here's to you.
Thank you.
Here's to Rwanda. Here's to opportunity. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and discover us at Ingham. I hope it's not the last time, and I hope you felt the love in every bite.
I feel so loved.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow. Thank you so much, Nicole. So, moving forward, you have your Rwandan Ethiopian roots influenced. How has this influenced your approach to business and hospitality?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Well, I think I'm grateful that both of my parents are very hospitable people. So both very, very generous people. The Ethiopian culture is one of sharing. It's one of eating together. It's one of celebrating one another through food, and it's a culture that believes that is again the highest form of respect that you can give to someone and of love is to share a meal and to cook for them and to feed them. The Rwandan side, it is not in our culture to eat. However, we have a culture also of giving. We have a culture of sharing milk. We have a culture of sharing traditional beer. And luckily, both of my parents really, from a young age, were always hosting and really instilled a love of people in me and wanting to be with people and wanting to share with people, and that sense of community. So that, in essence, has, I think, made me really want to go into hospitality very, very early on in my life. And just being African, that is the joy of being African. And any African in the world can relate to the fact that, when you enter an African's home, he will not let you leave without eating.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nicole, a quick question here. How do you think the younger generation in Rwanda especially can harness Rwanda's development to further their own ambitions?
It's a very good question again. I think we need a more educated youth, right? We need a more educated youth. We need a more focused youth. Um, and I want Rwandans to know that there's so many opportunities here for us. I think we think that we go and we get an education and we have to go and get jobs abroad, but the country really needs us. I think we've gone leaps and bounds in initiatives that that the government has, whether it's with the development bank with VRD, whether it's with the Green Fund, whether it's working also in partnerships with foundations like the MasterCard Foundation, whether it's working with banks to try to, because the biggest challenge that the young people have, especially when they want to start their entrepreneurial journey, is access to finance. And that is a struggle across the continent, right? Access to finance. These are young people with no collateral. So for me, it's hand in hand. We need to find initiatives where governments can help young people to access finance. And we need young people to just have a bit more rigor, because it's one thing to have an idea, but people think being an entrepreneur is glamorous. And believe me, it's everything except that, because you're dependent on yourself. You are your own boss. You make your own hours. The success and failure of the business lies on you. You are responsible for all of your staff members and their families. You're responsible also for being compliant. So there are many factors here at play. But so for me, I think discipline and rigor is one thing that, if I was to give an advice to a young dreamer, is it's great to dream. Never stop to dream. But your dream could never be accomplished if you have no discipline and there's no rigor in anything that you're trying to do. So let's find some access to finance, and let's get younger kids educated.
Wow. Nicole, thanks so much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you.
And I would like you to give me your concluding remarks.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think I love the idea of this show that you're doing, because really I think that is how everybody should think. If you've been in power, then you have an obligation to empower the next person, the next generation, your community. So like I said, I've been afforded so many things, and I've been blessed in my life. And I hope that I can be a blessing to others, whether it's through my knowledge, whether it's through my time, and whether it's in philanthropy. I hope to be a proud asset for Rwanda and a proud asset for my community and my family. And so keep dreaming, keep dreaming. I think there is no limit. There is no limit, but just give yourself the opportunity to fulfill that dream by doing your research, paying your dues, seeking assistance, seeking mentorship, bettering yourself through education and learning, whether it's technical learning, and then live, Yeah, live and enjoy, and live fully through your passion, and that will definitely yield a great business generally.
Nicole, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My viewer, despite initial opposition from her parents, Nicole Ansoni pursued her dream of becoming a chef. And over time, she has empowered not only herself, but others in the process. Thanks a lot for watching The Perspective. Until next time, bye-bye.
So, are you feeling the love?
Yeah!
Bon appetit.
Merci beaucoup.
Bon appetit.
Merci.
Only here at Inga Steakhouse.